before the visions, before the storms of heaven opened above him, Enoch lived as a quiet scribe among the early generations descended from Adam. The world was still young then, lush, unpredictable, and filled with a kind of innocence that future ages would forget. Humanity lived long lives and kept close to the land. The borders between the earthly and the heavenly were not yet hardened. Strange things were whispered in the night, and the children of men often felt watched by unseen forces. Enoch was not a warrior nor a king. He was a listener, an observer of the patterns of nature, the seasons, the stars that shifted across the slow-moving sky. His gift was attention. Ancient tradition later called him the one who walked with God, because he lived as if every hour carried spiritual weight, as if the invisible world pressed gently against the visible one. According to the old accounts preserved in 1 Enoch, his life took shape during a turning point in human history. The early tribes still wandered through valleys thick with cedar and cypress, but the earth had begun to feel the first tremors of corruption. Stories passed between families of strange beings glimpsed at dusk, tall figures moving against the horizon, lights descending from mountaintops, voices speaking in languages no one understood. People did not yet call them watchers, but the memory was already forming. Scholars believe this section of Enoch's tradition reflects a worldview in which human history was never purely human. The ancient Near East was full of myths of sky beings and divine messengers. Enoch's text stands out because it frames these not as distant gods, but as agents, sentinels placed over the world, some loyal, some disobedient. This tension sets the stage for everything that follows. What makes Enoch unique is that he is portrayed not as a prophet who forces his way into divine knowledge, but as one invited, drawn upward because the heavens themselves wanted a witness. The early chapters emphasize his humility, his righteousness, his refusal to worship the growing power of the mighty ones who were beginning to influence humanity. Enoch's separation from worldly corruption becomes the reason he is chosen later to ascend. His descendants recall that he would sit alone at night, tracing the stars with a wooden stylus, whispering the ancient names of constellations. The book presents him as a man who sensed that history was shifting beneath his feet, that something vast and troubling was stirring among the mountains. Yet he had no visions, not yet. Only a feeling, a pressure in the air, like the silence before a great wind. In this first stage of the story, Enoch stands on the threshold of the supernatural. His world is still grounded, still human, still quiet. But above him, the watchers are preparing to descend. The narrative pauses here intentionally, letting us breathe in the calm before the revelation. For Enoch, these final ordinary days would soon become memories of a life about to disappear. He did not know it yet, but the heavens were already watching him. The peace of the early generations did not last. According to the tradition preserved in 1 Enoch, the turning of the age began not among men, but among the watchers, the angels appointed to observe, guide, and guard humanity. They were meant to remain unseen, silent custodians of order. But a fracture formed in their ranks, a splintering of purpose that would change the fate of the world. The text describes how these beings, tall, radiant, and terrible in their splendor, looked upon the daughters of humanity and found them beautiful. This moment, simple in its phrasing but catastrophic in its implications, marks the first act of celestial rebellion outside of Eden. The heavenly beings, once pure messengers, felt pulled toward earthly desire. For the ancients, this was not merely lust, but entropy, a divine order beginning to fray. 200 watchers, led by the enigmatic figure Semjaza, descended to the high places of the earth. Mount Hermon, cold and jagged against the sky, became the chosen place of their oath. There they bound themselves in secrecy, swearing that none would withdraw from the plan or betray the others. The Book of Enoch treats this as a pivotal cosmic crime, heavenly beings swearing a human oath, stepping willingly into the cycle of desire, consequence, and death. Scholars often read this passage as a symbolic explanation for the existence of hybrid beings in ancient mythologies, as well as a critique of foreign priest-kings who claimed divine ancestry. But the narrative itself treats the Watcher's descent as literal and tragic, a shattering of boundaries meant to remain eternally separate. Once the Watchers took human wives, the world began to change rapidly. Their presence brought knowledge, but corrupted knowledge. They taught metallurgy, enchantment, cosmetics, weapon-making, astrology, skills that amplified human desires and multiplied human violence. The line between guidance and exploitation blurred, until finally it snapped. This era, described as a time when giants roamed the earth, is mythic in scale, but grounded in an almost anthropological fear, the idea that humanity was being reshaped by forces beyond its comprehension. The Watchers believed they were improving mankind. The book insists they were destroying it. And somewhere below these unfolding events lived Enoch, a quiet scribe, unaware that his world was becoming the battleground between heaven's loyalty and its betrayal. He would soon be called to witness the consequences of this celestial fall. But for now, the story focuses on the Watchers themselves, beings who traded eternity for a moment of earthly beauty, not realizing the price that would follow. The heavens, once silent watchers of the world, had stepped down into the dust, and the earth trembled under their feet. The union between the Watchers and the daughters of humankind did more than violate heavenly law. It altered the fabric of the world itself. From these unions came the Nephilim, the giants of ancient renown. Beings neither fully human nor fully angelic, endowed with immense strength, prodigious hunger, and an untamable will. One Enoch describes them as colossal, destructive figures whose appetites could not be contained. Their size was a symbol, but their presence reflects something deeper, a world out of balance. In the cosmology of the text, creation is built on harmony. Each realm, each species, each power remaining in its appointed place. The Nephilim were a breach in that harmony, a living embodiment of the rebellious fusion of heaven and earth. As they grew, their consumption became impossible to ignore. The text speaks of them devouring human food, then animals, then turning upon humanity itself when nothing remained. The earth groaned beneath their violence. Bloodshed increased, and the cries of the oppressed rose upward like smoke. This is the moment when one Enoch shifts from mythic genealogy to apocalyptic tension. Scholars often interpret the Nephilim as an echo of Mesopotamian giant hero legends, Gilgamesh, Enkidu, and other semi-divine rulers. But the Book of Enoch does something distinct. It condemns them. These giants are not heroes but tyrants, the disastrous result of misused cosmic knowledge. Their lives are described as short, unstable, and doomed to madness. The Watchers, proud of their offspring yet terrified of what they had unleashed, found themselves trapped. Having bound themselves by oath, they could neither confess their guilt nor dismantle the world they were helping to unravel. Their corruption spread outward like cracks in stone, cities fortified under Nephilim rule, warfare intensified by forbidden knowledge, sorcery and weaponry blossoming too fast for moral restraint to contain. Humanity, caught between celestial rebels and monstrous hybrid rulers, cried out for deliverance, and according to the text, heaven heard. This escalating chaos is what leads to the next great turning point, God's judgment, not just upon mankind, but upon the heavenly beings who betrayed their charge. It is here that Enoch's role begins to shift. As violence filled the world, and the giants raged across the land, Enoch would soon be summoned not merely as a witness, but as an intermediary between heaven and the fallen watchers. The earth was breaking, and the heavens were preparing their response. The Nephilim, born of forbidden union, became the heralds of a global catastrophe, and Enoch would become its historian. As the violence of the Nephilim spread across the land, the world entered an age of suffocation. Ordinary people, farmers, shepherds, early city dwellers, felt powerless beneath the shadow of beings who towered over them. The Watchers, once guardians, had become distant overlords. Their hybrid sons ruled with appetite rather than wisdom. The cries of the afflicted rose from valleys, markets, and mountain passes, a chorus of suffering that the heavens could no longer ignore. The Book of Enoch describes this moment with a striking reversal. It is not humanity that prays to heaven, but the earth itself. The earth complained, the text says, as though creation were a living being groaning beneath the weight of corruption. This framing reveals the theological heart of Enoch's worldview. The moral order of the world is not merely about human behavior, but about cosmic stability. When divine beings violate their boundaries, every layer of reality feels the consequences. In response to the spreading chaos, the heavenly archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, observe the suffering below. They see bloodshed rising, the Nephilim consuming the land, the Watchers teaching forbidden arts, humanity driven to despair, and they bring the report before the Most High. This marks one of the earliest portrayals in ancient literature of angels acting as cosmic inspectors, guardians of order, and prosecutors of divine law. Scholars note that the Enochian tradition predates later angelic hierarchies and reveals an older, more turbulent vision of the spiritual world, one in which angelic beings are dynamic participants rather than distant symbols. Heaven's response to the Watcher's corruption requires a human intermediary, someone pure, perceptive, and capable of receiving truth without being destroyed by it. That someone is Enoch. While violence spread across the land, Enoch remained a man of contemplation. He kept records, observed the stars, and lived with a quiet discipline that set him apart. His righteousness was not merely moral, it was perceptual. He sensed the subtle shifts in creation, the thickening of the air, the agitation in the heavens. Then, according to the text, the archangel Uriel descended to him. Uriel did not arrive in fire or thunder, but in radiance, light shaped into form, a presence both gentle and overpowering. Enoch, startled yet calm, listened as the archangel revealed the truth. The world was nearing judgment. The Watchers would soon face condemnation, and Enoch would play a role no human had played before. He was to be the messenger to the rebels. This is one of the most dramatic moments in one Enoch. A mortal man appointed to confront fallen angels. The choice of Enoch underscores the themes of humility versus pride, obedience versus rebellion. The Watchers desired human flesh, Enoch desired understanding. The contrast is stark. And so the quiet scribe of righteousness was summoned into the center of a cosmic crisis. His journey upward was about to begin. When Uriel delivered his message, Enoch understood that his life among men had reached its turning point. The quiet fields, the cedar groves, the long evenings spent watching the slow drift of stars, these would become memories. The summons he received was not symbolic, it was literal. Heaven called him upward. The Book of Enoch describes his ascent with awe and disorientation, a movement not only through space but through states of being. He does not climb a mountain or follow a stairway. Instead, he is taken, drawn through layers of reality like a leaf carried by a rising wind. The first realm he enters is luminous and soft, filled with clouds that glow from within. This is the threshold, the boundary between earth and the heavens. Voices echo faintly, like distant chanting. Enoch's senses sharpen. The air feels alive, aware, almost sentient. Ancient readers imagined the heavens as stratified, with each layer governed by different orders of angels. Enoch's ascent mirrors that cosmology, revealing a universe filled with structure and intelligence. As he rises higher, the light intensifies. He sees beings of astonishing form, some like flames with eyes, others like towering silhouettes wrapped in shimmering veils. None resemble the corrupted watchers. These are loyal servants, keepers of the celestial order, and their presence underscores the scale of the Watchers' rebellion. Enoch realizes that the fallen ones were once part of this vast hierarchy, and the contrast between them is overwhelming. The second layer brings thunder without storm, voices without bodies. Here, Enoch hears the rhythmic pulse of creation, the cosmic heartbeat, as later mystics would call it. Scholars interpret this as a poetic rendering of divine governance, the idea that the universe is maintained by ongoing command, not by distant abandonment. Enoch is not merely sightseeing, he is being shown how reality works. The third realm opens like a great hall, crystals, rivers of fire, pillars of translucent stone, imagery that feels both geological and divine. Here, Enoch sees the places where angels record the acts of men, tablets of destiny shimmering with inscriptions no mortal tongue could pronounce. Symbolically, this represents cosmic accountability. In a world shattered by the Watcher's rebellion, Enoch must see that heaven is not chaotic. It is ordered, deliberate, and watching. Then he reaches a place of great fear. In the fourth realm, he rests before a throne of frost and flame, where no angel speaks. The silence is purposeful. The air is sharp enough to cut. Enoch feels the weight of judgment here, the inevitability of consequences. Later commentators saw this realm as a metaphysical courtroom, a prefiguration of the judgment the Watchers will soon face. Finally, he is brought before the great glory, the presence of the Most High, surrounded by irresistible radiance. Enoch cannot look directly, but he feels the truth in his bones. The cosmos is not indifferent. What happens on earth matters in heaven. The cries of the oppressed have reached this place. In this moment, Enoch understands why he has been chosen. A human witness is required. A mortal voice must be sent back to the fallen angels to announce their fate. The ascent is not only a journey upward, it is a transformation. When Enoch returns to the earth, he will not return as a scribe, but as a herald of judgment. At the height of his ascent, Enoch is brought into the most sacred and fearsome place in all creation, the throne room of the Most High. In 1st Enoch, this moment marks one of the earliest and most elaborate throne visions in ancient religious literature. It is older than many later apocalyptic texts, and its imagery became foundational for Jewish and Christian mystical traditions. Here, the narrative slows, not to describe God, because God cannot be described, but to capture the effect of his presence. The room is not a room. It is an expanse of radiance, a space where form dissolves into meaning. Flames do not burn, they illuminate. Storms do not roar, they proclaim. The floor beneath Enoch is like crystal infused with lightning, transparent yet impossibly solid. Every surface, every movement, every sound seems alive with purpose. The Most High sits upon a throne of unimaginable brilliance, white fire, sapphire light, and something deeper than either. The ancient writers strain language to its limits, calling him the Great Glory, the Ancient of Days, the one whose garments are whiter than snow, and whose voice is like 1,000 rushing waters. Enoch cannot raise his eyes, he cannot speak, he cannot breathe without divine permission. This is the paradox of the Enochian tradition. A mortal stands in a place no mortal should survive, and yet he is not destroyed. Instead, he is strengthened, empowered. infused with a clarity that belongs to the heavenly realm. He becomes, in essence, a bridge between worlds, and it is here, before the throne, that Enoch receives his commission. The archangels surround him: Michael, advocate of the righteous; Gabriel, warrior and keeper of cosmic purity; Raphael, healer of earth and humanity; Uriel, guide of mysteries and judgment. Their presence reinforces the gravity of the moment. They stand not as symbols of comfort, but as executors of divine order. The Most High declares that the Watchers who descended to earth have violated the eternal law. They have abandoned their heavenly posts, corrupted humanity, and birthed a generation of destruction. Their actions have fractured the harmony of creation and introduced knowledge that was never meant for mortals. And so, Enoch is commanded: "Go to the Watchers who have left the high heaven and speak to them my words of judgment." This is unprecedented. A human, frail, temporary, bound to the dust, becomes the emissary of divine justice to beings of shimmering power. The text emphasizes this inversion. Those who should have instructed mankind must now be instructed by a mortal. Those who once towered above humanity must now bow to a human messenger. The weight of the task settles on Enoch. He realizes that when he returns to earth, he will not simply warn kings or tribes. He will confront fallen angels, beings who once walked among the stars and governed the cosmos. He will tell them their request for mercy is denied. Their offspring, the Nephilim, will be destroyed. They themselves will be bound, cast into darkness, and held there until the final judgment. Enoch feels the enormity of this decree, but he accepts it without hesitation. He does not do so out of pride, but out of clarity. Standing before the great glory, the world's disorder makes perfect sense. The corruption of the Watchers is not a tragedy. It is a breach requiring mending. As the vision concludes, Enoch is escorted away from the blinding presence. But he is not the same man who arrived. Something of heaven has fused with him: resolve, authority, and a knowledge that no human has carried before. Soon he will descend back to earth, and the rebels will hear their sentence. When Enoch returned from the heights of heaven, the world felt smaller, its mountains low, its valleys narrow, its tribes fragile beneath the weight of unseen forces. But he did not return alone. The authority of the throne room remained upon him like a mantle of invisible fire. He had crossed realms no human had crossed, heard words no mortal throat had ever been asked to speak. Now he was to deliver a message that would shake the foundations of the rebellious Watchers. According to 1 Enoch, the Watchers dwelt in a remote place, hidden among mountains and desolate ridges where the earth rose like broken teeth. These beings, once radiant, now dimmed by their transgression, watched Enoch approach with a mixture of fear and longing. They knew who he was. They knew why he had come. Semjaza, their leader, stepped forward. He no longer carried the presence of a heavenly prince. His radiance was faded, as if guilt itself had weighed him down. Behind him stood others: Azazel, Arachiel, Kokabiel, Sariel, names that would echo through later mythologies as symbols of forbidden knowledge and fallen glory. Their voices trembled when they addressed him. "Intercede for us. Ask the Most High to forgive us." The irony was profound. Angels, towering beings of ancient power, begging a mortal for mercy. This moment is one of the most striking in the entire Enochian corpus. It inverts every expectation of divine hierarchy. Scholars often interpret it as a literary device meant to emphasize human moral responsibility. Even the mighty can fall, and even the lowly can become a vessel of truth. But the narrative does not soften the scene. Enoch listens to their pleas, but he knows the answer before he speaks it. The decree of heaven is absolute. Standing among the rebels, he delivers the message: they will receive no pardon. Their petitions will not be heard. Their offspring, the Nephilim, will be destroyed. They themselves will be bound and cast into darkness until the end of days. The watchers recoil, not in anger, but in grief. The text describes them as trembling, their faces downcast, their brilliance dimming further. They had imagined that the Most High was like them, movable, persuadable, willing to bend. But heaven's order is not clay, it is stone. Azazel, the one most responsible for teaching corruption to humanity, weaponry, sorcery, makeup, enchantments, falls silent, perhaps realizing that the knowledge he gave to humanity has sealed his fate. Semjaza, who led the rebellion, bends under the weight of inevitability. The Book of Enoch describes the watchers as shaken with great fear, a phrase rarely applied to celestial beings. They had once stood in the presence of God without trembling. Now they cower before a human bearing divine authority. Enoch finishes the message, but he does not turn away immediately. He observes them, these rulers of the heights who abandoned their posts, now reduced to pleading shadows. The moment is filled with a haunting mixture of justice and sorrow. For the first time since their descent, the watchers fully grasp the magnitude of their crime. Not only have they condemned themselves, they have doomed their children, destabilized creation, and invited the cleansing judgment that will soon engulf the earth. Their final request to Enoch is desperate. Write a petition for us, deliver it to the Most High. Perhaps he will reconsider. Enoch, moved by their anguish yet bound by obedience, agrees to write the petition, but he already knows the outcome. The heavens have spoken. The sentence is sealed. Still he writes it. Still he brings it upward again. Still he waits for the answer he knows will come. This section ends with a moment of tragic tension. The fallen angels, once luminous guardians, lingering in a place of sorrow, awaiting the verdict that will confirm their doom. And Enoch, their unlikely messenger, feels the weight of both worlds pressing upon him. Enoch had delivered the watcher's sentence, but his task was not finished. Their final request, to write a petition for mercy, hung in the air like a dim, fading hope. Though Enoch knew the decree of the Most High would not change, he fulfilled their request with the solemnity of a scribe who understood the weight of every word. He withdrew to a quiet place, far from the mountains where the fallen ones mourned. There, under a pale sky, he wrote their plea, a confession, a lament, and a desperate request for pardon. The watchers' names, once radiant, were inscribed with trembling characters. Their sorrow flowed through him like a cold wind. He felt the heaviness not only of their guilt, but of their fear. A fear new to them, unfamiliar, destabilizing. With the petition complete, Enoch prepared for another ascent. This journey upward was not like the first. The awe remained, but a deeper weight settled on him. He carried the words of beings who had once stood among the stars, and now feared the darkness. The Book of Enoch emphasizes the emotional gravity of this moment. The messenger is not triumphant, he is burdened. The task is judicial, but also deeply human. As he rose through the layers of heaven, the realms shifted in tone. The first layer welcomed him with luminous mist, but its softness felt edged with solemnity. The realms of fire and crystal hummed with the same cosmic rhythm, but Enoch sensed an anticipation, as if the heavens themselves knew the petition would be denied. Angels greeted him, but their expressions were unreadable. Ancient commentators believed this journey symbolizes the unchangeable nature of divine justice. Mercy is abundant, but cosmic order cannot be bent to accommodate rebellion among the heavenly hosts. When Enoch reached the throne room again, he was overwhelmed by the immensity of the great glory. But this time, he did not tremble for himself. He trembled for the watchers. He presented the petition. He waited. There was no deliberation, no hesitation, no extended silence. The answer was immediate and final. Their plea shall not be granted. The Most High declared that the Watchers had abandoned immortality for corruption, exchanged their heavenly dwelling for mortal desire, and sowed destruction upon the earth through their knowledge and their offspring. They had violated the boundaries of creation and would face the full consequences of their choice. Enoch was told, "Go and tell the Watchers who sent you. You will have no peace nor forgiveness nor future in heaven." The judgment was not spoken with wrath, but with absolute clarity, a clarity that transcends emotion. The divine order had been broken, and the breach required restoration. The Watchers' fate was sealed. Their children, the Nephilim, would lose their physical forms and become wandering spirits, restless, corrupted echoes of the violence they had unleashed. These disembodied beings, according to Enoch, would plague humanity long after the giants themselves were gone. As Enoch stood in the radiant hall, absorbing the decree, he realized that the world below was now on a path toward cataclysm. The corruption could not be undone through words alone. Something larger, vast, cleansing, devastating was approaching. His mission was now twofold: to deliver the ultimate verdict to the fallen angels and to warn humanity of the flood of judgment soon to come. He descended once more, carrying the final answer of heaven. The Watchers waited below, but not for hope, only for truth. When Enoch descended from heaven carrying the final verdict, the air around him felt heavier, as if the very wind resisted the news he bore. The mountains where the Watchers dwelt were quiet, but not with peace. It was the quiet of dread, of beings who sensed the ending of their story long before it was spoken. He found them in a remote place, a dark valley surrounded by cliffs that rose like shattered pillars. The text describes this valley as a place of shadows, where the ground itself seemed bruised by the weight of celestial beings exiled from their stations. The Watchers were gathered there, waiting. As Enoch approached, they stood, not with pride, but with trembling. These were angels who had once moved through the upper heavens with confidence and fire. Now their radiance was pale, their wings lowered, their faces dimmed with grief. Enoch delivered the message. There would be no forgiveness, no restoration, no return to heaven. The silence that followed was vast, stretching across the valley like a wound. Then the Watchers, towering, sorrowful, broken, began to tremble and weep. The text describes them as astonished, shaken, and stricken, their tears flowing like rivers into the dust below. This grief was not human. It was cosmic. It belonged to beings who had never known loss, never known fear, never known the terrible finality of judgment. Semjaza collapsed to his knees. Azazel turned away, covering his face with hands that once shaped forbidden knowledge. Others cried out, their voices shaking the cliffs. This is one of the most emotionally charged moments in 1 Enoch. Scholars often remark on its unusual tenderness. The Watchers are condemned, yet the narrative does not portray them as monsters. They are tragic, fallen not out of hatred but out of desire, curiosity, and pride. But tragedy cannot halt justice. As they wept, Enoch experienced a sudden, overwhelming vision. The valley transformed before his eyes. The shadows deepened into chasms. The ground opened like a vast throat. Chains, fiery and spectral, stretched across the ravines as if waiting for the Watchers to descend into them. The mountains loomed like prison walls. The air shimmered with the heat of divine fire burning beneath the earth. This vision is known in later traditions as the Valley of Tears, a place both literal and symbolic. It represented the future prison of the Watchers, the abyss where they would be bound until the final judgment. The landscape Enoch saw was not fully present. It was a preview of what creation would become when the decree was fulfilled. He saw hollows carved out for each of the fallen, rivers of molten stone flowing through subterranean channels, angelic sentinels stationed above, watching. darkness so thick it felt like matter, and the void beneath, a pit with no bottom. Enoch felt the terror of it, not for himself, but for the beings behind him whose fate it foretold. When the vision ended, the valley returned to silence. But Enoch stood there shaking, the truth burning in him like a brand. The watchers, sensing the change in his expression, understood. Their lament grew deeper, echoing against the cliffs in a chorus of grief that seemed to stretch into the heavens they could no longer reach. This section closes with Enoch standing between two worlds, the weeping of the fallen angels behind him and the vision of their eternal prison before him. The shadow of judgment was no longer distant. It was already descending. After witnessing the watchers' lament and the terrifying vision of their future prison, Enoch felt the weight of heaven's unfolding plan settle onto his spirit. But his revelations were not yet complete. The corruption born from the watchers' descent had infected not only their own hearts, but humanity's future and the lifeblood of the earth itself. Something vast, something catastrophic, was approaching. It is in this moment that one Enoch reveals one of its greatest and most haunting prophecies: the cleansing of the world through water. The earth's cry becomes judgment. Enoch's visions shift from the valley to the broader world. He sees humanity suffering under the rule of the Nephilim, villages ravaged, fields stripped bare, families scattering in fear. The giants grow more violent, hungrier, more unstable. Their bodies, once magnificent in the early days of their growth, now twist under the weight of their own unnatural origins. The earth itself, the text says, accused the lawless ones. This personification is unique in ancient literature, a world crying out against its abusers, demanding justice. For Enoch, this is not poetic. It is literal. Creation is a witness, and it is testifying. In response, heaven declares that the contamination cannot be healed through punishment alone. The disease has spread through generations, through cities, through the very soil. A purging is required, something that resets creation, washes away the corruption, and restores the equilibrium between heaven and earth. This becomes the first explicit announcement of the coming flood. The revealed cataclysm. Uriel, the archangel who guides Enoch through the mysteries of destiny and cosmic order, appears once more. His face shines like molten gold. His eyes contain the steadiness of law. Enoch senses the gravity of what is to be revealed. Uriel speaks with a voice like a great current of water. Behold, a great destruction shall come upon the earth. A deluge shall cleanse all that has been defiled. The words hang in the air like a sentence already carried out. Enoch sees the vision unfold. Clouds gathering beyond the horizon, black and heavy. The fountains of the deep, cracking open like wounds beneath the continents. Seas rising with impossible speed. Rivers overflowing their banks and merging into one vast, unstoppable force. Whole cities swallowed in a single night. The Nephilim cast down, their bodies swept away, their spirits left restless. The watchers condemned to witness what their rebellion has wrought. The flood is not portrayed as an act of rage. It is a surgical strike, cosmic triage, a cleansing, a reset. In this retelling, as in the original text, the flood is not primarily directed at humanity, but at the Watcher's influence and the hybrid violence that sprang from it. Humanity is collateral, but not the central target. Scholars note that this perspective is unique to the Enochian tradition, differentiating it from the later Genesis narrative. The hope beyond the waters. Amid the terrifying imagery, Enoch is shown a thread of mercy. A single family, righteous and steadfast, will be preserved, Noah and his future children. Enoch sees him, a man yet to be born in Enoch's lifetime, carrying a spark of purity, capable of bridging the destroyed world and the world reborn. The angels instruct Enoch to deliver the warning to the righteous. and to record the prophecy, for the coming generations will need to understand why the world was washed clean. Enoch's burden deepens. When the vision ends, Enoch stands in silence. The enormity of what he has seen surpasses even the watcher's judgment. He realizes that he is witnessing the destruction of an entire age. The tears of the watchers were tragic, but the grief of the earth is greater. Creation itself has reached its breaking point. Enoch, the scribe of righteousness, must now carry this revelation back to humanity. He must speak of a storm beyond storms, a flood beyond measure, a cleansing that will mark the end of an era and the beginning of another. The heavens have decided. The waters will come, and the world as Enoch knows it will drown. When the visions of the coming flood faded from Enoch's sight, he felt the earth beneath him with new heaviness. He had seen continents torn open, mountains swallowed whole, and the violent giants swept away like dust in a tempest. But his task was not to mourn the old world. His task was to warn the living. For the first time since his ascent, Enoch turned not toward angels or fallen watchers, but toward humanity. Enoch returns to the people. He traveled from village to village, crossing foothills and valleys where ordinary families struggled beneath the oppression of the Nephilim. The people feared the giants, feared the watchers, and feared the strange signs that had begun to appear in the skies. They whispered of suns that set in colors they had never seen, rivers changing course overnight, beasts fleeing valleys in waves, stars that trembled like lamps in a storm. Enoch's presence was unsettling to them. He carried an aura unlike any other man, something sharpened by heaven's fire, softened by divine sorrow. When he spoke, people listened, not out of reverence, but because his words felt like truth made solid. He declared, "The world will be cleansed. Prepare yourselves. Walk in righteousness." But the text is clear. Few heeded him. Most were too frightened by the giants, too enthralled by the forbidden arts the watchers had taught, too entangled in a world drifting toward collapse. Only the humble and the wise, the quiet families living on the margins, the elders who remembered a purer age, the wanderers who kept to the old ways, took Enoch's warnings to heart. The birth of a righteous line. It is here that one Enoch introduces a new thread of hope. Noah, still a child or not yet born, depending on the chronology. Enoch's son, Methuselah, would soon become the father of Lamech. And Lamech would one day father a child whose birth would trouble him greatly, for the boy appeared different, brighter, calmer, marked with a strange radiance. Lamech feared that Noah might be the offspring of a watcher. But Enoch, still alive in this era, according to Enochian tradition, receives word about the child and offers reassurance through a visionary message. Noah is pure. He is chosen. He will survive the flood. Through him, the earth will be renewed. This moment is crucial. Enoch becomes the bridge between the old world and the world to come. Through him, Noah's lineage is affirmed, and the future of humanity is secured. Enoch's preaching and the coming divide. As his teaching spread, a divide forms among the people. 1. Those who followed righteousness. They withdrew from cities ruled by the giants, lived simply, and clung to purity. 2. Those seduced by the watchers. They learned magic, enchantment, metalworking, and warfare. Their lives became shaped by desire and conflict. 3. Those who lived in fear. Neither righteous nor wicked, they were trapped between forces beyond their comprehension. Enoch taught all of them, but he knew that only a remnant would survive the cleansing waters. Signs of impending doom. The world began to respond to the growing corruption. Springs dried unexpectedly. Earthquakes shook ancient mountains. The moon dimmed at odd intervals. The stars shifted from their seasons. Clouds formed in unnatural shapes. Strange winds swept across the plains. In the Enochian worldview, nature itself becomes prophetic. Creation reflects the cosmic imbalance, warning humanity through trembling and turmoil. Enoch's final mission among men. This section of Enoch's story ends with a sense of impending departure. He feels that his time among mortals is nearing completion. The visions are intensifying. The air itself seems thinner around him. Heaven is calling him again. But before he goes, he leaves humanity with two legacies. 1. The Book of Warnings, prophecies written for future generations, preserved by his descendants. 2. The blessing of the righteous line, the assurance that Noah will lead the rebirth of the world. Enoch's voice echoes across the final days of the ancient age. Walk in truth. Walk in light, for darkness will drown, but righteousness will rise again. And soon he will vanish from the earth, taken up before the waters come. Enoch's task among humanity was not yet complete, but the heavens called him once more. His first ascent had been an encounter with judgment, radiant, overwhelming, final. It revealed the fate of the Watchers and the cleansing that would soon sweep across the earth. But his second ascent would reveal something different, the hidden architecture of the cosmos, the laws that shape the movement of stars, the silent rhythm that governs time, the geometry by which heaven measures seasons and years. This portion of 1 Enoch is known as the Book of the Luminaries, one of the oldest and most mysterious astronomical texts in ancient literature. Enoch is taken up again. One night, as the air shimmered with an unusual stillness, Enoch felt the familiar pull of heaven. A brightness descended upon him, not as fire this time, but as a vast, gentle radiance that seemed woven from moonlight and dawn. Angels approached him once more. Their presence was calm, deliberate. They were not sent to speak judgment, but to teach. Uriel, the keeper of cosmic secrets, stood at the forefront. Enoch, scribe of righteousness, record what you see, for these are the mysteries of creation. The journey into the cosmic order. Enoch was lifted into realms far different from those of his first ascent. Instead of thunderous halls and blazing thrones, he entered immense expanses filled with stars like living embers, suspended in rivers of unseen currents. He saw luminous gates opening and closing across the sky, massive celestial doorways through which the sun and moon traveled in predetermined paths. These were not metaphors to him. They were real structures, vast mechanisms of divine design. Uriel explained, "There are 6 great eastern gates and 6 western gates, through which the sun passes, altering its path as the seasons change. The moon, too, has its gates, its phases, and its ordained cycles. The stars march according to heavenly command, guided by angelic custodians assigned to each constellation. The winds come from 4 great chambers located at the earth's edges, north, south, east, and west, and their mixing gives rise to storms, rain, and the changing of climates. Like a cosmic architect, Uriel unfolded the entire blueprint of the heavens for Enoch to witness. Modern scholars see in this text a blend of ancient Near Eastern astronomy and symbolic cosmology. But in the narrative, Enoch experiences it as literal truth, a universe not governed by chaos, but by an intricate, intelligent order. The laws written in the sky. Enoch was shown tablets of heavenly writing, vast, shining scrolls inscribed with formulas, measurements, and decrees concerning the length of days and nights, the waxing and waning of the moon, the regulated circuit of the sun, the boundaries of light and darkness, the appointed times of seasons, and the sacred rhythm that governs all life on earth. Uriel's voice echoed through the celestial corridors. All things move by command. Nothing wanders without purpose. This is the law of the luminaries. For Enoch, the revelation was transformative. He realized that the corruption on Earth, the violence of the giants, the sins taught by the Watchers, was not merely a moral crisis. It was a violation of the cosmic symphony. Disorder among angels had created disorder among men. This second ascent allowed him to see the contrast. Heaven was ordered. Earth had fallen into chaos. The purpose of these secrets. Why was Enoch shown these things? Because the coming flood was not just a punishment. It was a resetting of divine order. Humanity would need guidance on how to rebuild. The righteous line of Noah would need a framework to measure time, sow crops, follow seasons, celebrate festivals, and walk in harmony with creation. Enoch's writings would become the foundation for this knowledge, preserved through his descendants long after he was gone. Enoch's awe and burden. As the visions continued, Enoch drifted through starfields so vast they seemed endless, watched comets blaze across dark expanses, and saw the pillars of heaven glowing like molten crystal. He felt small, yet profoundly connected. A mortal exploring realms meant for immortals. When the ascent finally ended, Uriel pressed a final charge upon him. Write all things. Teach them to your sons. For after the waters fall, they will need the wisdom of heaven. And so Enoch descended once more, carrying the secrets of the cosmos on tablets of memory, ready to inscribe them into the world. After receiving the secrets of the luminaries, Enoch was not returned immediately to the world below. Instead, the angels carried him deeper, into regions where heaven and earth touched, where the foundations of creation were laid like massive pillars beneath reality itself. If the Book of the Luminaries revealed the architecture of the sky, this new revelation would reveal the machinery of the world. This portion of 1 Enoch is often called the Earthly Secrets, a catalog of cosmic storehouses, elemental chambers, and the hidden places where the forces of nature gather before they are unleashed. The journey to the roots of the world. Uriel continued as Enoch's guide, his presence glowing with steady, instructional light. They descended, not downward in space, but inward, through layers of the world unseen by mortal eyes. Enoch felt the landscape shift. Fields gave way to jagged stone gave way to darkness, and darkness opened into colossal caverns filled with glowing rivers and trembling vaults. Uriel spoke, "These are the foundations of the earth, where the elements wait for their appointed times. The storehouses of the winds." First, Enoch was brought to chambers carved out of the deep. He saw 4 titanic vaults, each a vast cavern filled with roiling, shimmering forces. The east wind, bright, sharp, bringing dawn and new growth. The west wind, heavy with moisture and the scent of oceans. The north wind, cold, fierce, laden with storms and ice. The south wind, warm, humid, bearing the breath of deserts. Each wind felt alive, as if it possessed character and purpose. Uriel explained that angels governed these winds, releasing them at appointed times to shift seasons, bring storms, or calm the seas. In ancient cosmology, this was not metaphor. The winds were forces supervised like cosmic rivers behind gates. The storehouses of the clouds and rain. Next, Enoch saw chambers luminous with floating vapor. These were the storehouses of the clouds, holding mist and dew like treasures in suspension. Beneath them were the storehouses of rain, deep cisterns filled with water glowing faintly blue. These reservoirs pulsed with quiet power. Uriel described how angels opened the gates of these storehouses during storms, directing rainfall across the earth. This imagery, common in ancient Near Eastern cosmology, presents weather as a regulated, angelic process. But Enoch's narrative emphasizes the rightness of this order. Nothing is random, nothing is chaotic. Everything moves according to divine design. The storehouses of snow and hail. Then came the most chilling chambers, Massive caverns glittered with icy crystals, each reflecting light in fragmented rainbows. Great piles of snow lay in pristine heaps. Further in, Enoch witnessed the storehouses of hail, spheres of frozen fire, white, sharp, and shimmering, like stars trapped in ice. Uriel warned him that these were instruments of judgment, released not by natural cycles, but by divine decree in times of correction or cleansing. The fiery chambers beneath the earth. From ice they moved toward heat. The ground glowed with red veins as if lava, called liquid fire in Enoch's vision, flowed like blood beneath the skin of the world. Uriel showed him the subterranean furnaces where volcanic fire dwelled, restrained by angelic guardians until earthquakes or eruptions were commanded. In Enoch's cosmology, fire is both creative and destructive, a principle of transformation watched closely by heaven. The pillars of the earth. Deeper still, Enoch reached the awe-inspiring pillars of the world, immense supports rising from bottomless depths to uphold the land above. Each pillar glowed faintly, inscribed with patterns resembling cosmic mathematics. Uriel explained that these were symbolic representations of stability, cosmic metaphors rendered in visionary form. But to Enoch, they were literal, tangible, humbling in their immensity. The end of the paths. The final revelation of this section brought Enoch to the edges of the earth, vast cliffs overlooking the chaotic waters that lay beyond the ordered land. Here, he saw great anchors, massive, glowing roots, holding the world in place against the swirling sea of the abyss. This was the border between order and primordial chaos, a boundary kept intact only by the will of the Most High. Enoch's realization. The deeper the angels led him, the more Enoch understood. The world is not accidental. It is engineered with purpose, maintained by countless forces observed by countless eyes. Yet, the corruption of the Watchers had disrupted not only humanity, but the balance of all these forces, winds, waters, fire, seasons. The coming flood, therefore, was not simply punishment. It was the resetting of creation's mechanisms, a cleansing of the cosmic machine. Enoch felt awe, fear, and clarity settling into him like sediment. He now carried the knowledge of the heavens and the earth, and soon he would write it all for future generations. After witnessing the foundations and storehouses of creation, Enoch was guided toward a place far more solemn, a region where the world reached its furthest boundaries. The angels told him he was about to see not just the architecture of the cosmos, but its moral geography, the regions where justice becomes landscape, where the consequences of rebellion take physical form. This section in 1, Enoch, marks one of the most haunting passages in the entire book, for here Enoch is shown what few beings, human or angelic, have ever witnessed, the final dwelling place of the fallen Watchers, the journey toward the edge. Uriel led Enoch across barren plateaus where the wind whistled through fissures like mournful voices. The ground became cracked and dry, the air colder, thinner. Light dimmed, not into night, but into something stranger, an everlasting twilight. Enoch soon realized they had reached the extreme ends of the earth, where the world dropped away into the abyss below. These were not metaphorical edges. They were real borders between ordered creation and the unformed chaos beyond. Far beneath the cliffs, Enoch saw turbulent waters swirling with unnatural motion. This was the primal sea, the abyss from which creation had once emerged. But above it, suspended like scars against the horizon, were immense hollows carved into the rock. The hollow chambers of judgment. Uriel pointed toward the caverns, vast dark openings glowing faintly from within. These, he said, are the prisons of the angels who transgressed. The chambers were arranged in tiers. The upper hollows glowed with a dim, cold light, places of anticipation where the less corrupt watchers awaited their sentence. The middle hollows flickered with shifting shadows, places of confinement where those who taught violence and vanity were bound. The lowest hollows burned with a terrible fire, places of punishment reserved for the worst offenders, those whose knowledge had led humanity into bloodshed. Enoch shuddered. These vast caverns were not natural. They pulsed with moral energy, shaped by the decree of the Most High. Azazel's abyss. Uriel showed him one hollow deeper and more terrible than all the rest, a cavern so wide it swallowed the horizon. "This is the prison of Azazel," the archangel said, his voice tightening. "Here he shall be bound until the end of all ages." Enoch saw molten streams flowing like rivers of liquid metal, cooling into jagged black formations. Above them, chains of luminous fire hung suspended, waiting for the one who had corrupted humanity with forbidden arts, warfare, sorcery, ornamentation, deception. According to the Enochian narrative, Azazel is singled out as uniquely responsible for the spread of bloodshed and vanity across the earth. His prison reflects the magnitude of his wrongdoing, a place of heat and weight where fire does not consume but torments. The cry of the imprisoned watchers. From the upper hollows, Enoch heard faint echoes, voices crying out in despair. These were the watchers who had once pleaded with him, now awaiting the final execution of their sentence. They had not yet been cast into the depths, but the hollows were a holding place, a prelude to judgment. Some voices called his name. Others lamented their children, the Nephilim, who had been slain. Still others begged for time, for reconsideration, for hope. But the heavens had already spoken. Their tears would not alter their fate. The darkness beyond the world. Uriel then showed Enoch something even stranger. Beyond the hollows, beyond the cliffs, beyond the swirling abyss, lay a region of pure darkness. No stars, no wind, no sound. It was not shadow cast by something. It was shadow itself, a realm outside of creation assigned to hold the spirits of the wicked dead and the disembodied souls of the giants. This darkness was not punishment, it was containment, a spiritual quarantine. The purpose of the prison. Uriel explained the cosmic logic behind the imprisonment. The Watchers had introduced imbalance. Their children had flooded the world with violence. Their teachings threatened the harmony of creation. Thus the prisons were not merely punitive. They were necessary to restore cosmic order. The world could not be renewed while the rebels roamed free. Enoch, hearing this, felt a mixture of sorrow and understanding. The fallen angels were not beyond pity, but they were beyond mercy. A final glimpse of the coming judgment. Before departing, Enoch saw a vision of the future, chains descending. The Watchers dragged from their hollows, Azazel hurled into the deepest flames, the final sealing of their prison. This would occur after the flood, after the cleansing of humanity's corruption, after the rebirth of the world through Noah. Enoch would not live to see it, but he was entrusted with recording it for the generations that would. And with that, Uriel turned him away from the edge of the world. Enoch had seen the prisons of the mighty. He had witnessed the geography of judgment, and soon he would return to the living world once again. From the edge of the world and the prisons of the fallen, Enoch was taken to yet another realm, one not designed for angels or giants, but for human souls. This was not heaven, nor hell, nor the abyss. It was something older, quieter, and far more complex, the place where the dead await their final destiny. In the Enochian tradition, this realm is called Sheol, a vast subterranean world divided into chambers of light and shadow. It is the waiting place of souls, the spiritual holding ground before judgment. Uriel guided him downward into this mysterious domain. The descent beneath the earth. The air grew colder as Enoch followed the archangel into a cavern system deeper than any natural cave. Walls glowed faintly with a bluish light, as if illuminated from within. The ground was smooth and vast, like a plain carved from ancient stone. Enoch heard no cries here, only a deep, unending hush, like the silence that follows grief. Uriel spoke, "This is the place where all human spirits are gathered after death, until the day when the Most High calls them forth." But this realm was not uniform. It was divided into 4 great chambers. The first chamber, the spirits of the righteous. Uriel led Enoch to a region filled with gentle light, neither blinding nor dim. The air felt warm, peaceful, almost fragrant. Here dwelled the souls of the righteous, those who lived in truth, who walked in justice, and who sought mercy and wisdom. They waited in serenity, aware of what lay ahead. For them, the final judgment would be vindication, not terror. This section of 1 Enoch provides one of the earliest articulations of a post-mortem hope rooted in justice rather than oblivion. The righteous are not forgotten. They rest in expectation. The second chamber, the spirits of the moderately good or troubled. Adjacent to the first chamber lay another region, less bright, but not dark, a place of mixed light and shadow where souls neither rejoiced nor despaired. These were the people who lived ordinary lives, not wicked but not wholly righteous either. They experienced a quiet uncertainty, a patient sorrow. Their fate was not sealed. Their judgment awaited the balance of their deeds. This chamber reveals the moral nuance of the Enochian worldview. Humanity is not divided neatly into good and evil. Many dwell in between. The third chamber, the spirits of the wicked. From there, Enoch was led into a chamber dimmer still, where the air felt heavy and cold. Faint shadows moved along the walls, and the silence became tense and oppressive. These were the souls of the wicked, those who oppressed, betrayed, murdered, corrupted, who embraced the sins taught by the Watchers, who reveled in violence and injustice. Their eyes were downcast, their spirits trembled. They knew judgment would come like a hammer. The Book of Enoch does not describe torment here, only dread. This is not punishment. It is waiting for punishment. The fourth chamber, the spirits of those wrongly killed. Lastly, Enoch reached the most sorrowful chamber of all, a region filled with cries, faint but piercing. The air pulsed with a kind of spiritual tension. Uriel said, "Here dwell the spirits of those who were slain unjustly. Their blood cries out for justice." This echoes the ancient memory of Abel's blood crying from the ground in Genesis. But here, that theme expands. All who died through violence, through betrayal, through oppression, they cry out collectively, forming a chorus of accusation against the wicked. It is this chamber that shapes Enoch's later understanding of the flood. The cries of the innocent weigh heavily upon creation. They demand correction. The partitioning of souls. Uriel explained that these 4 chambers represent the moral structure beneath the world. Souls are not abandoned after death. They are sorted according to their lives, not to receive immediate reward or punishment, but to await the final reckoning when all accounts will be settled. For Enoch, this revelation was staggering. The afterlife was not an amorphous shadowland. It was orderly, ethical, deeply intertwined with the justice of heaven. Enoch's grief and insight. Enoch felt profound sorrow as he walked through these realms, especially the fourth chamber, where the cries of the unjustly slain echoed like haunting winds, but he also felt clarity. The world above was corrupt. The giants ruled with bloodshed. The Watchers had introduced violence into human culture. And here, beneath the earth, the consequences were stored like tears in a great reservoir. The flood was not merely punishment, It was response dash dash, a cosmic answer to the blood that saturated the soil. The final revelation of this realm. Uriel lifted his hand toward the chambers and said, "These places will remain until the appointed day, when the righteous shall rise and the wicked shall fall into the darkness prepared for them." Enoch understood. Death was not the end. Justice would reach beyond the grave. The moral order of the universe extended into realms unseen, and now he was charged with revealing this truth to humanity. Having seen the prisons of angels and the four chambers of human souls, Enoch stood at a crossroads within the great tapestry of revelation. What he had witnessed thus far revealed the problem: the corruption of the watchers, the violence of the giants, the suffering of the innocent, and the imbalance that had spread across creation. But now Enoch was shown the solution. Not the flood, that was only a cleansing. Not the binding of the fallen, that was only containment. What Enoch saw next was the ultimate answer, the force that would one day restore justice not just for his era, but for all ages, the chosen one, the anointed, the Son of Man, the messianic judge. This portion of 1 Enoch, called the Parables, or Similitudes, of Enoch, is one of the most influential prophetic visions in ancient Jewish literature. The angels bring Enoch into a realm of light. Uriel and other archangels led Enoch out of the shadowed caverns of the dead into a realm that shimmered with purity. It felt different from all previous visions, brighter than the luminary realms, more holy than the storehouses, less fearsome than the prisons. A radiant plain stretched before him, glowing with an otherworldly light. Great mountains rose like pillars of silver and gold. The air sang with a constant, gentle vibration, like a distant choir. Then Enoch saw a throne. Not the throne of the Most High, which he had glimpsed before, but a second throne set apart yet near, dazzling in beauty. It radiated authority, mercy, and power. The angels bowed toward it. Enoch felt a chill of awe. The chosen one revealed. A figure approached the throne. He shone like a star. His face was like calm flame. His garments glowed brighter than snow in the morning sun. And yet, he looked like a man. Not an angel, not a phantom. A human, yet more than human. Uriel whispered, "Behold the chosen one. He is the Son of Man. He is the one born for righteousness." In Enoch's vision, this figure is pre-existent, present before creation, hidden in heaven until the time appointed. He is destined to execute final judgment, to vindicate the righteous, to cast down kings, tyrants, and corrupted angels, and to restore harmony to the universe. Scholars note that this is one of the earliest portrayals of a heavenly messianic figure who is both manlike and divine, a concept that would echo through later religious tradition. The role of the chosen one. Enoch was shown the purpose of this glowing figure. He will judge the kings of the earth, those who oppress the weak and embrace the teachings of the watchers. He will destroy the wicked, human and angelic alike. He will sit upon the throne of glory, ruling with perfect justice. He will raise the righteous, giving them everlasting light. He will reveal the final truth, making all hidden things known. He will restore creation after the age of corruption ends. Uriel emphasized, "The chosen one will accomplish what the flood cannot." The flood cleanses the world, but the Son of Man restores it. The vision of the future judgment. Enoch saw further. The kings of the earth gathering in arrogance, the giants raging before their destruction, the spirits of the wicked trembling, the fallen watchers chained in darkness. Then the chosen one seated upon the throned books of judgment opened before him, angels standing as witnesses, and the souls of the righteous rising like sparks carried upward on a warm wind. The wicked were driven into darkness, the righteous were given radiant robes, The earth was transformed into a new realm. No violence, no corruption, no sorrow. The identity of the Chosen One. Enoch asked Uriel, "Who is he?" Uriel replied, "He is the one whom the Most High has chosen. Before the foundation of the world. He is the light of the nations. He is the staff of the righteous. He is the hope of those who dwell in darkness." In other words, this figure is the cosmic answer to cosmic injustice, the final solution to the rebellion of heaven and the tragedy of earth. Enoch's response. Enoch fell to his knees. He understood that he was not just witnessing history, he was witnessing destiny. The flood was coming for his generation, but beyond that flood, beyond the centuries, beyond the rise and fall of kingdoms, a far greater moment awaited the arrival of the Chosen One, who would bring justice to the universe. Enoch would record everything. For this vision was meant not just for his children, but for ages yet unborn. After beholding the Chosen One seated upon the throne of glory, Enoch was shown the destiny that awaited those who walked in truth amid the corrupt world of giants and fallen angels. If the previous visions revealed how the wicked would fall, this revelation showed what the righteous would rise into. The transition was sudden. The blazing brilliance of the messianic judge softened into a warm and steady radiance. Enoch felt as though he had stepped into a world where time flowed differently, slow, peaceful, and overflowing with purpose. This vision is one of the most beautiful passages in 1 Enoch, a stark contrast to the dread of the prisons and the sorrow of Sheol. Here, Enoch witnesses the reward of those who remain faithful, even when surrounded by violence, temptation, and spiritual darkness. A realm without shadows. As Enoch walked forward, he entered a land saturated with light, not the harsh fire of divine judgment, nor the cold luminescence of the luminaries, but a gentle living glow. A daylight that seemed to arise from every tree, stone, and river. The mountains shimmered like polished marble. The air smelled of sweetness, like blossoms after rain. A breeze passed through the grasses, and each blade glowed momentarily, as if touched by heaven's breath. This was the kingdom of light, the renewed world, promised for the righteous. Uriel explained, "Here shall dwell those who love truth, who withstand wickedness, and who refuse the path of the watchers. Their inheritance shall never fade." The houses of glory. Enoch was shown homes unlike anything on earth, towers built from luminous stone, halls glowing with warm inner fire, courtyards filled with trees that sang when the wind touched them, walls etched with living symbols that glided like flowing water. These were not mansions of ego or status. They were dwelling places of peace, reflecting the purity of the souls who lived there. The righteous did not fear intrusion, corruption, or violence. The world itself was aligned with their goodness. The righteous clothed in radiance. Enoch saw multitudes walking through the gardens and along the rivers of this realm. Their faces shone like stars at dawn. Their garments were woven from light, soft, flowing, warm. They moved without haste or fear. Each step seemed to harmonize with the rhythm of creation. Uriel said, "These are they who suffered under the giants, who resisted the sorcery of the watchers, who kept their hearts pure." Enoch recognized some of them, ancestors of his people, humble shepherds and faithful elders, those who had died under oppression or hidden righteousness in their hearts. The tree of life restored. At the center of this kingdom stood a colossal tree, its branches stretching toward heaven like welcoming arms. Its leaves glowed with a soft golden-green fire. Its trunk radiated warmth. Its fruit illuminated the ground beneath it. Uriel told him, "This is the tree of life, which the Most High kept from the world after Adam's fall. In the new age it shall be restored, and its fruit shall heal the nations. Enoch understood that the righteous would not simply survive judgment. They would be transformed. A world without death. Enoch saw no graves, no shadows of grief, no signs of decay. The air did not age. The rivers did not erode. The mountains did not crumble. Uriel explained, "In this realm they shall not perish. Their joy shall be unending. Sorrow shall never touch them again." This was not immortality of the flesh, but immortality of harmony, existence woven into the fabric of divine light. Justice fulfilled. Enoch asked, "What of the wicked?" Uriel answered gently, "They shall see this place only from afar. They shall have no share in it, for this is the inheritance of the righteous alone." This was not cruelty, it was cosmic alignment. Those who embraced violence could not enter a realm of peace. Those who sowed corruption could not dwell in purity. The kingdom of light existed precisely because wickedness had been removed. The joy of the righteous. Enoch watched as the righteous lifted their faces to a luminous sky. They sang, not in words, but in tones that resonated like celestial music. Their voices harmonized with the wind, with the waters, with the light itself. He realized that righteousness was not merely moral purity, it was alignment with creation, participation in the cosmic song that had been drowned out by corruption in the old world. The righteous now existed in perfect resonance with the divine order. Enoch's heart stirred. For the first time in all his visions, Enoch felt not fear, not awe, but hope. This was the future humanity was meant for. This was what would rise after the flood. This was the destiny preserved through Noah. This was the world the chosen one would rule in the final age. Enoch knew that he must record every detail, for this vision was not only comfort for the righteous, but a warning to the wicked, a reminder that justice once begun would be completed. And so this section closes with Enoch, gazing across the tranquil fields of the kingdom of light, knowing that the universe itself would one day be made whole again. The vision of the kingdom of light faded softly, like dawn retreating into a memory. But Enoch's revelation was not yet complete. After showing him the reward of the righteous, the angels now revealed the fate of those who shaped the old world through arrogance, violence, and unchecked power, the kings, tyrants, judges, and mighty ones of the earth. If Section 17 revealed destiny restored, Section 18 reveals the reckoning, a divine confrontation with every human authority who misused the influence given to them. This portion of 1 Enoch is profound because it shifts focus away from angels and giants and toward human corruption. It is a critique of rulers who imitate the Watchers, earthly men who embrace domination, oppression, and vanity. The gathering of the tyrants. Enoch was brought into another vision, this time a bleak, storm-laden plain. Dark clouds coiled like serpents across the sky. Lightning danced along the horizon. And there before him he saw the kings of the ancient world. They did not stand as they had in life, surrounded by armies crowned with gold boasting in their splendor. Instead, they were gathered like prisoners summoned for trial, each stripped of the symbols of power that once defined them. Their faces were proud but anxious. Their garments were regal but dim. They looked at each other with growing dread. Uriel spoke, "These are the kings and mighty ones, who ruled the earth with violence, who honored the giants, who accepted the teachings of the Watchers." Enoch recognized some of their faces. The despots whose armies ravaged villages, the rulers who built their cities with forced labor, the judges who accepted bribes, the lords who worshipped idols and oppressed the weak. The giants were gone, the Watchers were bound, but the kings who imitated them still awaited judgment. The chosen one appears to judge them, Suddenly the vision shifted. The glowing figure from section 16, the chosen one, the Son of Man, appeared upon a throne of blazing glory above the storm-torn plain. His radiance cut through the darkness like a blade of white fire. The kings trembled. Some attempted to hide, others fell to their knees. Enoch saw books open before the throne, records of every decision, every injustice, every act of cruelty or greed. Uriel declared, "Their judgments shall be weighed. Their violence shall be returned upon their own heads." One by one, the kings realized what was happening. Their legacies were on trial, their actions exposed, their masks torn away. The fall of the mighty ones. Enoch watched as the rulers tried to defend themselves. One king claimed that his armies were necessary. Another argued that the giants demanded loyalty. Another insisted that wealth and dominance were signs of divine favor. But the chosen one saw through them. For each claim, there was a counter-record. The widows they oppressed, the innocent they executed. The fields they seized, the children they enslaved. The blood spilled in their name. The kings realized, too late, that earthly authority carried spiritual responsibility. They had believed themselves untouchable. But here, before the throne, they were as fragile as dust. The chosen one spoke a single phrase. "Because you exalted yourselves above men, you shall be brought below all creatures." A wind howled across the plain. The kings and mighty ones were swept away like chaff. Not annihilated, but cast into the company of the wicked, into the shadows reserved for those who abused power. A warning to future ages. Uriel turned to Enoch and said, "Record this for generations yet to come. Let kings know that power is a trust, and that the Most High examines all deeds." This passage becomes a moral cornerstone of Enoch's message. Power does not justify itself. Influence is judged by how it treats the weakest. Leadership aligned with violence becomes a curse. Justice is the final measure of authority. Enoch saw that the corruption of rulers was not simply personal, it created entire cultures of injustice. Their fall was necessary for the world to be healed. The fate of earthly thrones. The vision expanded again. Enoch saw thrones crumbling into dust, crowns melting like wax, scepters snapping under invisible weight, palaces collapsing into darkness, statues of rulers shattering as if struck by unseen hands. These images symbolized a universal truth. No earthly kingdom can stand if it is built upon oppression, deception, or violence. The giants had fallen, the watchers had fallen, and now the kings who imitated them fell as well. Only righteousness could endure. Enoch's reflection. As the vision faded, Enoch felt a deep solemnity. He understood now. The flood would cleanse the world of chaos. The chosen one would cleanse the world of injustice. The righteous would inherit the kingdom of light. And every earthly power misaligned with divine justice would be overturned. This was not just a prophecy. It was a revelation of cosmic morality, a warning to rulers across the ages, and a message that no tyranny lasts forever. Enoch recorded it all. For the generations after Noah, for future kings and kingdoms, and for all who would one day seek to understand the hidden order of the world. After witnessing the judgment of kings and tyrants, Enoch's spirit felt heavy. The visions of collapse, the cries of the wicked, the prison hollows of the fallen angels, the trembling of the giants, the storms of divine justice. But now, the tone of the revelations shifted. For the first time since his ascent, Enoch was approached not by Uriel, Michael, or Gabriel, but by a being of extraordinary gentleness, the angel of peace. This figure appears in 1 Enoch as a guide of comfort, hope, and cosmic reassurance. A divine emissary, not of judgment, but of restoration. He is unnamed, for his essence is peace itself. The arrival of the angel of peace. Enoch stood alone in a quiet place after the storm-laden vision of the fallen rulers. The sky above him suddenly grew calm. Not bright, but serene, like the stillness after rain. A figure approached across a path of soft light. His presence did not overpower, it soothed. He carried no sword, no scroll, no fire, only a sense of wholeness that radiated outward, in waves of warmth and clarity. Enoch instantly felt his heartbeat slow, his mind settle, his burdens lift. The angel spoke, "Enoch, do not fear what you have seen, for the Most High brings peace after judgment and harmony after cleansing." A vision of the restored earth. The angel of peace touched Enoch's forehead, and the scenery transformed around them. He saw the earth not as it was, but as it would be. After the flood, after the fall of kings, after the final judgment of the Chosen One, he saw mountains blooming with life, where once there had been desolation. Rivers running clear, where blood had once stained the soil. Forests rising tall, untouched by corruption. Animals living in harmony, free from the fear taught to them by the violence of giants. Humans walking in wisdom, guided by the rhythms of the luminaries and the laws of righteousness. Cities humble and just, without tyrants or warlords. The earth itself singing, as though relieved of a great weight. Enoch felt awe flood through him. This was not a symbolic restoration. It was a literal renewal of creation. The angel of peace spoke softly. "This is the world as it was meant to be. This is the world that shall come, when truth reigns, and the Chosen One sits upon his throne. No more giants, no more corruption." Enoch asked the angel, "Will the watchers ever rise again? Will their children return?" The angel of peace shook his head gently. "Never. The giants shall perish from the earth forever. Their spirits shall wander in shadow, and the watchers shall remain bound until the end of days." Enoch understood the greatest sources of corruption, the forbidden knowledge, the unnatural unions, the violence that spread like infection, would never again take root in the restored world. The house of peace. The angel then showed Enoch a vision of a great structure, a magnificent sanctuary built of light and fragrant cedar. This was the house of peace, a place where humanity would gather, to remember the Most High, to learn the laws of harmony, and to walk in the wisdom that Enoch himself would record. Inside this house, Enoch saw elders teaching children, families sharing food, no divisions of tribe or lineage, no cries of injustice, no shadows of fear, only unity, learning, calmness, and joy. The house of peace symbolized the new covenant between heaven and earth. The angel's promise. The angel lifted his hand, and Enoch saw a glimpse of the distant future. Beyond Noah, beyond kingdoms, beyond the ages, he saw a world where the righteous rule in wisdom, a world where the Chosen One reigns in light, a world where the elements obey perfect harmony, a world where humanity remembers the lessons of the ancient age, a world without war, bondage, or corruption, a world restored to the intention of its creation. The angel said, "Peace shall cover the earth, as water covers the sea." This was not merely a poetic phrase, it was a decree, a promise of cosmic equilibrium. Enoch's renewal. After all the visions of destruction and of prisons and storms of suffering and judgment, Enoch felt hope fill him like a warm wind. The angel of peace concluded, "Write these things, Enoch, for the children of righteousness must know that peace is the final word of creation." And with that, the angel vanished, not in a blaze of fire, but like a soft light fading into dawn. Enoch stood alone, renewed, strengthened, ready to receive the final revelations of his celestial journey. The angel of peace had shown Enoch the future of the earth renewed. Lush fields, just rulers, harmony restored. The giants gone, the watchers bound, and humanity walking in righteousness. But the revelations were not finished. Now Enoch would see something even greater, a vision that stretched beyond earth, beyond time, beyond the cycles of history. He was about to witness the transformation of creation itself. This section corresponds to some of the most breathtaking passages in 1 Enoch, where the prophet is granted a glimpse into the reborn cosmos, a new heaven, a world fully aligned with divine order. The sky opens like a scroll. Enoch stood in quiet reflection when suddenly the sky above him changed. It did not brighten. It unfolded. Like a scroll pulled back by invisible hands, the firmament peeled away, revealing a realm of shimmering brilliance. A wind of pure radiance swept down and lifted Enoch upward. This was not like his previous ascents. There was no angelic escort. The transformation itself carried him. He passed through layers of brilliant light, each one shaping his senses, refining his perception, stripping away the heaviness of mortality. This was not the old heaven. It was something new. The recreation of the heavenly realm. Enoch found himself standing on a vast platform of translucent stone above swirling seas of luminous energy. It resembled the heavens he had seen before, but everything was elevated, more harmonious and more complete, as though creation had been tuned to perfect frequency. Uriel appeared beside him, radiant beyond previous visions. "Behold," he said, "the new heaven, the realm perfected after the final judgment." Enoch realized he was seeing not just the restored earth, but the cosmic renewal that would occur when the Chosen One completed his work. He saw stars singing with harmonics that resonated through his entire being, constellations moving in perfect orchestration, angelic hosts in new forms, brighter and purer, the luminaries tracing flawless paths across a sky without corruption, celestial gates glowing with refined symmetry, heavenly rivers of light flowing like molten gold. This was not merely a cleaned universe, and it was a transformed one. The end of chaos. Uriel pointed upward and downward simultaneously. Enoch realized the directions merged here. He saw the ancient chaos, dark, swirling waters, the primordial disorder that once threatened creation. Now, sealed away forever, locked beyond the reach of any creature, angelic or human. In the new heaven, Uriel said, "Chaos shall have no place, no rebellion shall rise, no corruption shall spread. The watchers fall, the giants' violence, the sins of kings." All of it had originated in the interplay between heaven and the earthly realm, but in the new creation, that fracture would be healed. The throne of the Most High in its final form. Enoch was shown a throne, dazzling, infinite, its brilliance so pure that even the memory of fear vanished. Around it stood countless beings, not angels in the old sense, but perfected forms living entirely in harmony with divine will. And upon the throne sat the great glory. Unchanged in essence, yet revealed in fullness for the first time, the Chosen One sat beside him, sharing in the radiance, and his presence suffusing the entire cosmos with peace. Enoch trembled, not in fear, but in overwhelming awe. He understood. The new heaven is not just a place. It is the final unity of justice, mercy, and cosmic harmony. The Book of the Living. In this realm, Enoch saw another vision, a great book shimmering with symbols that shifted like living flames. Uriel said, "This is the Book of the Living, the record of all who have chosen righteousness. Their names shall shine forever." Enoch recognized names. Some he knew from his own people, others from ages long after Noah, others from distant generations he could not yet comprehend. The book implied something astonishing. The new heaven spans all of time, past, present, and future. The righteous across all ages would share in the same destiny. the eternal rhythm of creation. Enoch listened and heard music, not sung, but emanated from the fabric of the new heaven. The luminaries kept perfect time. The winds breathed in harmony. The waters pulsed with internal rhythm. Even the silence was musical. Uriel explained, "This is the eternal design, creation in perfect alignment, nothing out of order, nothing hidden, nothing corrupted." Enoch realized that the new heaven was the fulfillment of the original intent of creation, a universe where everything existed, in perfect resonance with divine truth. The vision's meaning. Uriel concluded, the old heaven and earth pass away, not through destruction, but through transformation. What is righteous endures. What is wicked dissolves. This is the promise of the Most High. Enoch felt the vision settle into him like a seed, one that would blossom through the ages. As his writings survived the flood, as Noah rebuilt the world, and as generations searched for meaning, he understood now that his message was not only for his era, but for the whole arc of cosmic history. His revelations were a bridge between creation and recreation, between the first world and the final world. After seeing the new heaven and learning the destiny of creation restored, Enoch's journey moved into a different mode of revelation. Until now, he had been lifted into heavenly realms, shown cosmic structures, moral destinies, divine thrones, and purified worlds. But now he would be given visions in dreams, rich with metaphor, symbolism, and prophetic meaning. These visions are among the most mysterious and poetic in one Enoch often called the animal apocalypse, a sweeping allegorical history of humanity, from Adam to the Messianic age, represented through animals instead of people. The imagery is strange and beautiful, a sacred tapestry of beasts, stars, mountains, and waters. The dreams were not obscure to Enoch. He understood their meaning intuitively as they unfolded before him. The setting of the dream. Enoch lay down to rest, exhausted from the overwhelming heavenly revelations, and fell into a deep sleep. Immediately a vivid and living world opened before him, as clear as daylight, but woven in layered symbolism. An angel stood nearby in the vision, ready to interpret. Uriel whispered from the edges of the dream, "Record all that you see, for this vision shall be for generations yet unborn, a map of human destiny." The first part, Adam and the earliest generations, the white bull. Enoch saw the first human as a white bull, pure, strong, majestic. From this bull came a black bull and a red bull, symbols of later generations straying into different paths. These initial animals represented Adam, white bull, Cain, black bull, Abel, red bull. The sorrow of Abel's death echoed through the herd, symbolizing the first human injustice, a theme that recurs throughout the vision. Yet from Adam's line, more white animals emerged, a sign that righteousness, though wounded, would continue. The rise of the generations, beasts and birds. As the dream unfolded, Enoch saw a vast landscape populated by animals, sheep, representing the righteous, wild beasts representing the wicked, birds of prey symbolizing invading oppressors, dogs, foxes, and wolves representing corrupt leaders and violent tribes. Enoch understood that this was not merely a metaphor. It was a condensed, symbolic retelling of the earliest ages of humanity. He saw sheep turning into wolves, the righteous becoming corrupt, wolves turning into sheep, repentance, and violent creatures hunting the innocent. The vision reflected the cyclical nature of human moral struggle. The flood foretold in symbol, the great deluge. Enoch then saw a towering white bull appear among the animals. Noah. Storm clouds gathered, winds roared, waters rose. He saw the sheep carried onto a shining vessel. He saw the rest of the animals swept away. The wolves, the ravaging beasts, the predators. The symbolic flood washed the landscape clean. The angels in the dream wept for those who perished, but rejoiced for those saved. Just as he had seen in waking visions, Enoch watched the world begin anew. The post-flood generations, sheep, rams, and towers. After the flood, Enoch saw humanity represented solely as sheep. Each new generation was marked by the birth of lambs. Some grew into rams, strong leaders of the people. He saw the line of Shem, Ham, and Japheth branching into many flocks, new animals joining, symbolizing foreign nations. Tall towers being built by sheep, a clear symbol of the Tower of Babel. The tower collapsed in the dream, and the sheep were scattered across distant lands. A metaphor for the dispersion of nations. The patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Enoch saw a new set of white sheep rise, righteous ones set apart from the rest. A white sheep with black patches appeared. A symbol of Abraham, righteous yet flawed. Another pure white sheep rose, Isaac, then a strong ram, Jacob. Jacob's offspring became a multitude of sheep, some pure white, others spotted or dark symbolizing the tribes of Israel, their struggles, their sins, their victories. The age of Moses, the sheep, led by a glowing figure. Enoch saw a man represented as a glowing lamb, Moses, shining with divine presence. He led the sheep out from the wolves, Egypt, and across a stormy wilderness. He saw a towering mountain, Sinai, lightning and fire, a new house being constructed, the tabernacle, and sheep receiving luminous tablets. But many sheep rebelled. Some returned to wolves, others sought idols. The glowing lamb wept. The judges and kings, rams and fighting sheep. Enoch saw rams rising as judges and warriors as sheep turning against each other, new wolves arriving from distant lands, shepherds appointed by heaven, the prophets, yet often rejected by the flock. The dream narrated centuries of biblical history in beastly form, the rise of kings, the fall of kingdoms, invasions by foreign empires, exile and return. Some rams grew proud, others grew wise, many were slain by wolves. The prophets, heavenly shepherds. Enoch then saw angels descending as shepherds sent to guide the lost sheep. But many sheep ignored them. Some attacked them. Some followed wolves instead. The flock wandered far from the divine path. The coming of the chosen one, the great white ram. Finally, Enoch saw a magnificent white ram radiant like the chosen one in previous visions. He stood upon a high hill. He blew a trumpet, and the sheep gathered from all directions. He struck the wolves, healed the wounded, restored the lost, and judged the wicked shepherds. Then he transformed. His wool blossomed with light. His eyes shone like sapphire. His horns became radiant crescents. This was the messianic figure again. The Son of Man manifested in symbol. Under his leadership, the sheep were unified, the wolves were destroyed, and the entire landscape filled with peace. The final transformation. Sheep become humans of light. The dream ended in a breathtaking flourish. The sheep began to transform. Their wool dissolved into luminous garments. Their limbs shifted into human form. Not as mortals, but as radiant beings clothed in glory. The animals became children of light, restored to their true selves. The angel whispered, "This is the end of the age, when all creation shall be set right." Enoch awoke trembling. The vision was vast, symbolic, prophetic, a sweeping cosmic parable of the entire human story. He understood its meaning, and he wrote it for all future generations, so that they might see history through heaven's eyes. After the immense sweep of the animal apocalypse, Enoch's dream visions continued. But now they narrowed their focus, turning inward toward Enoch himself, and outward toward the ultimate destiny of angels and humans alike. These final dream visions are deeply personal and profoundly cosmic. They reveal Enoch's origins, his destiny, and the climactic end of the age. In 1 Enoch, these two dreams stand as bookends, one showing how Enoch was chosen before birth, the other revealing the final convergence of divine judgment when both celestial and earthly beings face their appointed fate. Part 1. The Vision of Enoch's Birth. A child clothed in light. Enoch fell into a deep sleep, and a vision seized him, not of worlds or beasts or kings, but of his own beginning. He saw his mother in labor, trembling in a dim dwelling lit only by a small lamp. But when he emerged, something extraordinary occurred. The room filled with radiant light. Not fire, not sunlight, but something otherworldly. A luminous presence cascading from the newborn skin. The house filled with radiance. The walls glowed as though they were lined with silver. The air shimmered like a heat wave. The brightness grew so intense that the neighbors fled in fear, believing an angel had descended into the household. Enoch watched this vision in awe, seeing his infant self glowing with a divine aura. In the dream, people whispered, "This child is not like others. This is no mortal birth. He must be from the Watchers." Even his father grew afraid, but a celestial voice declared, "Do not fear. This child is holy. He is chosen for righteousness and wisdom. Through him, generations shall learn the secrets of the heavens." For the first time, Enoch understood. His destiny was not random. His life had been marked from birth, his spirit aligned with heaven long before he spoke his first word. He was a bridge -- a mortal destined to walk among angels. Part 2. The Final Dream. Judgment of Watchers and Humans Together. The second dream was far more overwhelming. It did not concern his birth, but the end of all things corrupted, when both angels and humans would face divine judgment together. This dream mirrored the cosmic visions he had already witnessed. But now everything converged into a single, climactic scene. The Great Mountain of Judgment. Enoch saw a massive mountain, towering above the world, its peak disappearing into clouds of blazing fire. Lightning wrapped around it like living serpents. Thunder roared from within. Angels hovered around it like sentinels. Atop this mountain stood the Chosen One, radiant beyond description -- the Messianic Judge, the Son of Man who had appeared in earlier visions. He was surrounded by books. Books of deeds, books of destinies, books of truth. The Watchers are summoned. From the depths of shadowy ravines, Enoch saw the fallen Watchers dragged upward by chains of luminous fire. Their faces were hollow, their former glory gone. They trembled before the Chosen One. Azazel was brought forth. His eyes burned with dread. Semjeza followed, bowed in shame. All the leaders of the rebellion stood together, the same beings Enoch had confronted in earlier sections. This dream confirmed what Enoch had already witnessed in prophetic visions. Their fate was sealed. The Chosen One raised his voice. "You knew the truth, yet rebelled. You saw the light, yet embraced darkness. Your corruption ends today." The Watchers were cast into the abyss, the same fiery prisons Enoch had seen at the edge of the earth, but now sealed beneath a storm of divine energy, from which none could ever rise again. The Judgment of Humans. Then Enoch saw all humanity gathered before the mountain, the righteous glowing with soft radiance, the wicked trembling in shadow, the victims of injustice crying out, kings stripped of their crowns, shepherds, prophets, standing vindicated, the humble lifted up. Books opened. The deeds of every soul were read. Nothing hidden remained concealed. The chosen one divided them. Those who embraced truth were clothed in white, lifted into the kingdom of light Enoch had seen in earlier visions. Those who embraced wickedness were given over to darkness, not annihilated, but removed from the harmony they had rejected. This was cosmic justice in its purest form. Uriel whispered to Enoch in the dream, "The universe must be balanced. Each soul finds its place, according to its own nature." The final transformation of the world. The mountain cracked open, releasing streams of luminous water. They flowed across the earth, purifying valleys, healing forests, cleansing the last traces of corruption. Stars aligned in perfect harmony. The luminaries shone with renewed glory. The earth hummed with life. Creation was reborn. The chosen one then stepped down from the mountain, his presence merging with the world itself. And Enoch saw heaven and earth unified, in peace, light, and eternal harmony. This was not just the end of judgment. It was the beginning of a world restored. Enoch awakens. When Enoch awoke from the dream, his heart thundered in his chest. He understood. His birth was marked by divine intention. His visions were part of a cosmic design. His writings would guide future generations. His revelations stretched from the first world to the last. And the final judgment was not solely wrath, but the restoration of creation itself. Enoch wrote the visions in detail, knowing that the wisdom entrusted to him would survive the flood, and echo into ages far beyond his own. After the dreams of cosmic judgment and the revelation of his own divinely marked birth, Enoch sensed that his time on earth was nearing its conclusion. Not because he felt weak. Indeed, the visions had strengthened him beyond mortal frailty, but because the boundary between heaven and earth had grown thin around him. He moved like someone who belonged partly to another realm. Now came his final earthly duty, to deliver the teachings entrusted to him, to his sons, so that wisdom would survive the coming flood, and guide the reborn world. This portion of 1 Enoch, often called the Epistle of Enoch, or the Book of Wisdom, is both fatherly and prophetic, a legacy of knowledge meant for his family and for the righteous across all future generations. Enoch summons his sons. Enoch called for his sons, Methuselah, Regem, Reman, and the rest of his descendants. They gathered around him in a wide clearing, far from the cities corrupted by the Watcher's influence. The air was heavy with stillness, as if creation itself were listening. The sons looked upon him with mixed awe and fear. For Enoch's face often glowed faintly since his encounters with angels, and his eyes seemed to hold reflections of places no mortal had ever seen. He addressed them with a voice calm but resonant. "My sons, listen to the words of your father, for the Most High has revealed to me things that shall guide you and your children until the end of the age." The first instruction: walk in righteousness. Enoch began with the most essential teaching, the path of righteousness. Do not walk in the ways of violence, nor seek the knowledge that corrupts. Do not imitate the Watchers, whose pride brought ruin upon the world. He warned them against arrogance, bloodshed, deceit, cruelty, and alliances with the wicked. He emphasized that righteousness was not merely moral behavior. It was harmony with creation itself. Peace follows the righteous as a shadow follows a man, and violence follows the wicked, as dust follows the hooves of beasts. The second instruction: honor the order of creation. Drawing from his visions in the Book of the Luminaries, Enoch taught his sons the laws of the heavens, the circuits of the sun and moon, the rhythm of seasons, the proper times for sowing and harvesting, the significance of the winds and rains. He impressed upon them that these laws reflected a deeper truth. All things move by command. Nothing wanders by accident. Therefore walk in alignment with the order of the earth and the heavens. This knowledge would help Noah's descendants rebuild a world grounded in cosmic rhythm rather than chaos. The third instruction: reject the teachings of the Watchers. Enoch was stern here. Do not learn enchantments. Do not practice sorcery. Do not seek signs in the spirits of the dead. He knew the allure of forbidden knowledge would remain, even after the Watchers' punishment. He warned his sons that such knowledge was a seed of disaster, one that destroyed the giants, corrupted generations, and brought divine judgment upon the world. Instead, he told them, seek wisdom that nourishes life, not knowledge that devours it. The fourth instruction: hope in the Chosen One. Enoch then spoke of the Chosen One, the radiant judge he had seen in the heavenly visions. His sons listened with wide eyes as he described the throne of glory, the judgment of kings, the restoration of creation, the transformation of the righteous, the everlasting kingdom of light. He told them, a great one shall arise from among the righteous. He shall judge all flesh. He shall restore creation. Hold to hope, for his day shall come. For Enoch, this was not a distant abstraction. It was the culmination of all prophecy. The fifth instruction: preserve these writings. Enoch handed scrolls to Methuselah. Scrolls filled with visions, parables, astronomical tables, warnings for future generations, and wisdom for rebuilding life after the flood. He said, guard these writings as your life, for in them is truth that shall guide the earth's survivors. When the waters have passed, Methuselah accepted them with trembling hands. According to the Enochian tradition, these writings would ultimately pass to Noah, be preserved in the ark, and form the basis of wisdom for the new world. The sixth instruction: live in peace with each other. Enoch turned personal. He looked at each of his sons. Do not quarrel among yourselves, for division among brothers invites the shadow of the wicked. He urged them to maintain unity, humility, and reverence for the Most High. He reminded them that a divided family cannot preserve divine knowledge. Enoch's blessing over his sons. Finally, Enoch rose, taller, brighter, almost weightless. He lifted his hands and blessed his sons. May the Most High open your hearts to wisdom. May your paths be straight. May you escape the judgment of the wicked. May your children walk in light. May your names be written among the righteous, and may peace dwell upon your house all your days. A wind stirred, light shimmered around him. The sons felt as though heaven itself had leaned down to listen. A farewell without death. Enoch's instructions complete, his earthly mission fulfilled, a strange stillness filled the clearing. He looked at his sons one last time, eyes filled with love and cosmic sorrow. And then he was taken, not by sickness and not by age, not by any earthly force. He was lifted, drawn upward, and carried into the heavens. In a chariot of radiance, his sons fell to their knees, crying out in awe and grief. Enoch did not die, he departed, a mortal transformed into an eternal witness. His writings and his visions, his wisdom. These would be the legacy he left behind for the world reborn. Enoch's final instructions had been given. His sons stood trembling beneath the soft glow that seemed to cling to him now like a second skin. Every revelation, every prophecy, every warning he had received from the Most High had been faithfully delivered. His earthly task was complete. But Enoch himself was not finished. Something greater, something unprecedented, was about to happen. This section corresponds to one of the most mysterious and revered moments in 1 Enoch, the ascension of a mortal man into the realm of the angels, not through death, but through transformation. The moment of departure. As Enoch stood among his sons, the air changed. A gentle hum filled the clearing. A vibration like the breath of the earth itself awakening. The wind stilled. The birds went silent. The shadows retreated as though drawn back by invisible hands. The sons instinctively stepped backward. Enoch seemed to grow brighter, not in a burst, but like a rising dawn. Methuselah whispered, a voice shaking, "Father, what is happening to you?" Enoch smiled, in his face serene, his eyes reflecting realms his children would never see. "Do not fear. The Most High calls me." The descent of the celestial escort. A column of radiant light opened above him, not like a beam, but like a pathway, a gate descending gently to meet the earth. Angels appeared within it, some shaped like towering flames, others like translucent beings woven from harmonies of light, and among them Uriel, whose presence filled the clearing with a sacred stillness. The angels did not land. They hovered above the ground, waiting. Enoch looked upward as though recognizing old friends. Uriel spoke, "Enoch, scribe of righteousness, your time among men is fulfilled. Come, you shall walk in eternal light." The transformation begins. Enoch stepped forward, not forced but drawn by a gentle, irresistible pull. As he approached the column of radiance, his body began to change. The sons saw their father's earthly form dissolve around the edges. Not disintegrated, but refine, like iron made, pure in fire, like clay fired into flawless ceramic. His skin became luminous. His garments glowed. The lines of age melted away. His feet no longer pressed into the dust. He was becoming what heaven always intended him to be. Methuselah cried out, "Father, will we ever see you again?" Enoch turned, his voice echoing with gentle resonance. "My children, you will see me in the age of righteousness, in the world restored." These were his final earthly words. The ascent. Enoch rose from the ground, slowly, peacefully, like a leaf borne upward by a warm breeze. The column of light enveloped him. The angels surrounded him, their wings stirring the air with quiet power. His sons fell to their knees in awe. As Enoch ascended, the trees bowed, the wind sighed, the sky brightened, the clearing shimmered with softness. His form became fully luminous, a silhouette of pure radiance, a being halfway between mortal and angelic, and then he vanished into the upper light. Enoch enters the heavenly realm. Enoch awoke in a realm beyond form and beyond time, beyond the boundaries of earth. He stood on a platform of crystalline fire. Angels bowed as he ascended a radiant staircase. The sky above him swirled with colors unknown to mortals, living light that sang. Uriel guided him. "This is your home now, Enoch the transformed. You shall stand among the watchers who remained faithful. You shall witness every age until the final judgment. You shall intercede for humanity. You shall walk in the presence of the great glory." Enoch felt no fear, only awe a deep settling sense of belonging. He had become more than a prophet. He was now Enoch the eternal witness, Enoch the heavenly scribe, Enoch the one who walked with God and did not die. The legacy of his transformation. Far below, his sons realized the truth. Their father had not vanished into death. He had been taken, drawn into the realm of the angels, as a living member of the divine council. His writings would endure the flood. His visions would guide countless generations. His transformation would become one of the greatest mysteries of ancient tradition. Enoch had crossed the boundary no mortal had crossed, a bridge between earth and heaven, between flesh and spirit, between time and eternity. His journey was complete, his destiny fulfilled, his place in the cosmic order secured forever. Enoch had been taken, transformed from mortal scribe into a luminous being who now walked among the faithful watchers of heaven. But his story did not end with ascension. The final revelation of 1 Enoch concerns what remains behind. The legacy, the writings, and the message left for future generations. This concluding section closes the heavenly visions and seals Enoch's role as the eternal witness, whose insights bind together the earliest ages and the final destiny of creation. The heavenly perspective. From his new vantage beyond the veil, Enoch looked down upon the world, a world trembling on the brink of the flood, yet destined for renewal. He saw the giants growing unstable and violent, the corruption of the Watchers reaching its final stage, humanity divided between righteousness and ruin. Noah, preparing unknowingly for the calling he would soon receive, and the earth itself, groaning under the weight of bloodshed. Now, as a being of the heavenly council, Enoch understood the full arc of the divine plan. His writings were not merely warnings, they were anchors of wisdom, meant to survive the cleansing waters and guide the age that followed. Enoch's legacy in the hands of Methuselah. Below Methuselah, faithful son and guardian of his father's scrolls, gathered Enoch's writings into protected bundles. He placed them within stone chambers, sealed them with tar and clay, and entrusted them to the lineage that would soon lead to Noah. Methuselah felt the weight of his father's final charge. Keep these words, for they will speak to the children of the flood, and to the children of the last days. Methuselah did not yet know how close the waters were, but Enoch did. The heavenly watch continues. In heaven, Enoch stood among the angels, not equal to them, but honored above them, for his faithfulness as a mortal. He was given a new title, the Witness of the Heavenly Tablets. Enoch now observed the sealing of the Watcher's fate, the preparation of the prisons he had seen, the gathering of the forces that would undo the giants, and the subtle shaping of the world that would carry Noah's line into the future. His task was no longer to speak to earth, but to preserve its memory, and intercede from above. The vision of the distant future. In one final revelation, the Most High showed Enoch the vastness of ages yet to come. He saw the rise and fall of kingdoms, the suffering and triumph of the righteous, the rebirth of nations, the arrival of the Chosen One, the final judgment, and the transformation into the new heaven and new earth that he had already glimpsed. He saw humanity restored to the righteous shining like stars, and creation singing in harmony. Then the voice of the great glory said, "These things you have seen. Write them for those who will seek wisdom. For the age of righteousness shall come, and all shall be made new." Enoch's final testimony. Enoch, glowing with peaceful radiance, declared his final words before the heavenly host, "Blessed is the Most High, whose justice never falters, and whose mercy restores creation. Blessed are the righteous, for their reward shall endure forever. Let all generations know, nothing hidden shall remain concealed. The heavens and the earth shall pass, but truth shall stand." And with this decree the last vision settled like a scroll rolling closed. The book is sealed. The angels approached Enoch and presented him with a tablet, shining like polished sapphire. On it were inscribed the secrets he had been shown, the origins of corruption, the cycles of creation, the path of righteousness, the destiny of the Chosen One, and the final restoration of all things. The tablet was placed into Enoch's keeping, its wisdom preserved for the appointed times. Thus the heavenly vision closed. The eternal role of Enoch. From this point onward, Enoch became a guardian of the heavenly records. His voice echoed through ages as a symbol of truth. His writings influenced prophets, scribes, and dreamers across generations. His testimony shaped views of angels, judgment, and the world to come. And his ascension stood as a promise, That righteousness need not end in death. Enoch the man who walked with God, continued to walk with God forever. His story, preserved in his heavenly books and earthly scrolls, became a lantern for the righteous. From the days before the flood to the final days of the age, the circle of revelation had been completed.